So I'm Emma Darcy from M&D Marketing, if you haven't met me before, and Jessica is Jessica Catorc from jesscatorc.com, and Jess is the web designer this evening. I'm the business and marketing consultant. I don't make websites, but obviously I advise people kind of what they need. But Jessica is the expert, and that's why she's here this evening to explain to us all the ins and outs of web design. And I can't wait actually to hear what she has to say as well. So we've 11 attendees on, so if you can all just say hi, that making sure that you can all hear us. Emma's saying she's looking forward to it as well. And if you have any questions as we go through, just pop them in the chat. Jessica's going to be doing most of the talking after her introduction. And what we're going to do is she's going to run through all the different elements of web design and what to look out for and give us all her tips. And also, if anybody wants to have her to look at your website, it's kind of interactive. So she will actually make some comments on that as well. So if any of you would like to do that later on in the webinar, please feel free to do that. Have your link ready. And we would be delighted, or rather Jessica would be delighted to, you know, offer some advice on any websites. Okay, so we are 9 p.m. We'll just give another minute. We have 12 people on, that's great. So welcome to everyone. Welcome, I'm Emma Darcy from M&D Marketing. I'm from Ireland, and I'm a business and marketing consultant. And I have guest presenter Jessica Catorc here this evening, and she is a web designer. She's a fantastic lady that's going to show us how to design our own websites, or indeed blogs, because I know some of you have WordPress blogs as well. So I can't wait to hear her tips. Okay, so it's 9:01, so we're going to kick on ahead. And okay, so I know some of you have been listening in already, and you know, so just welcome, you know, sincere welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us this evening to this free training webinar. I'm Emma Darcy from M&D Marketing, mdmarketing.ie or .com. If you'd like to go and have a look, if you're curious. And, you know, I'm a business and marketing consultant. And as I said to you, we have Jessica Catorc here, from Canadian lady living in the UK, and she's a web designer, fantastic lady. So she's going to bring us through all of the aspects of web design. So, yeah, so without further ado, I am actually going to hand you over to Jessica. And I have to stop talking, otherwise you keep seeing me. And you know, if you have any questions in the chat, I will be the one that will be kind of, you know, forwarding them to Jessica, and we let her get on. And Alex is here as well. I have Alex Stern, I think, as well, so she's laughing, I think.
Oh, hi, Alex.
And Emma, who's a web designer, says, don't look at hers. Elaine says hi. So lots of people jumping in on the chat. So, you know, we want some engagement here. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. You know, that's the whole point. So I'd like to hand over to Jessica. And if you'd like to, you know, have a little chat yourself and explain to everyone who exactly you are, and, you know, when you're ready to go on with the presentation.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me, Emma. I'm super excited. I think I'm actually going to switch to my screen now, because in the slides, I'll have a bit of a background of how I started. So just, can you guys let me know if you can see it? Because I know you're saying there's a bit of a delay, isn't there, when you're sharing?
Yes,
screen? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to make it big. Can you see this? That's the question.
I can see it, but the question is, can everyone else? You need to talk again. Sorry, I have to shut up, because otherwise the screen switches to me.
Does it? Yeah, so just let me know if you can see this. Otherwise, I can make it a bit smaller, but hopefully you guys can see it in full screen.
Yeah, they're saying they can see it.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a couple of slides today, and I'm just going to give you the fundamentals of creating your DIY website, because I know that there's a lot of you out there that either have a website, but you're not quite sure how to make it even better, or maybe there's some of you that just, you have this brilliant idea, but you have no idea how to get it online. So to give you a bit of a background, I'm a web designer and a DIY website trainer, and I actually work specifically with entrepreneurs to help them to create easy and stunning websites. Yes, that is me with a backwards visor. It was a thing at the time. So I actually started my web design journey at the age of 12. And at the time, I didn't realize it, but I was learning basic coding on this virtual pet website. And part of the elements of the website was that you could create your virtual pet its own web page. So you could talk about what kind of foods it liked, what things it liked to do on the weekends. It's kind of like a kid-friendly block. And because of that, and I just kind of considered it as a game, I've always seen web design as something that was fun. Now, fast forward a few years, and I continued making websites all the time, whether it was for homework assignments, people's birthdays. I was just constantly making them, and I absolutely loved it. And that's what kind of sparked my interest into this whole world of design. And I ended up studying digital media. I got a certificate, which was in video animation, graphics design, and web design. And I went on to work on for projects like LinkedIn, Canterbury, Rio Tinto, and Airbus. So along this journey, though, I was constantly still making websites for clients. And one of the things that kept coming up was, can I build websites on WordPress? And after a while, I was like, all right, I need to kind of know what this is all about. So what you might not realize, though, is that I actually had to teach myself when I was trying to get everything together. And if anyone else has tried doing it themselves as well, it was the most confusing and frustrating thing, because there are so many forums, there's so many YouTube videos, but nothing seemed to make sense. And even when I'd get an answer, I still didn't know how to apply it. So that's kind of what my journey was when I first started. Obviously, I did a bunch of courses, and I was able to do it from that point on. So here's what you're going to learn in this presentation. I'm going to show you the basics of what you need to know to get started on your DIY website. And this is so you know going into it, when you see certain terms or certain things that people are talking about, you're going to know exactly what they mean, and you can just basically hop over it and go on to the next step. And in that includes your domain and hosting. You've got WordPress themes and plugins and widgets. And then after that, to make it even easier, I'm actually going to show you guys a live installation of WordPress. So it's going to be a one-click install. It's quick, it's easy, and you're literally going to install WordPress in a matter of minutes. And then after that, for anyone that is brave and looking for a bit of extra help, we're going to have some website reviews. And these are just, if you want just that extra bit of guidance, I'm not going to like pick your website apart. It's just going to be a couple of tips that you can maybe implement on your own site. And even if you don't have your website reviewed, hopefully you can take some of those tips and apply it to your own. So the step one is domain and hosting. And this is so exciting because this is literally the very first step of creating your website. And I want you to think of your domain name like the house address for your website. And the most important thing, like any good house address, is you want to keep it simple. So especially if you have a really like a lovely long last name, see if you can think of something that's a little bit shorter and easier to remember. And like I said, you can use your name, you can use a logical or clever variation, you can use your business name, but most importantly, and I know Emma's done this as well, which is brilliant, make sure you get the .com extension. And I can't stress this enough, because so many people, when they're starting off, they come up with this domain name and they go to see if it's available. It's not, and so they think, oh, but I can get the .net extension or a .org. But the problem with that is that you're actually basically giving someone else your traffic, because as you've probably done as well, you're going to assume that any domain name is a .com. So next we have our hosting. And I can't remember where I first heard this analogy, but I absolutely love it. You want to think of your hosting like your cyberspace landlord. And just like any good landlord, you want to make sure that you're with a hosting company that's reliable and they can help you whenever you need. And again, I can't stress this enough. I've had it happen where in the middle of the night, I've deleted my entire website, and having a hosting company that can help you is so, so important. And my top recommendation for anyone starting out is Bluehost, and you can just go to bluehost.com. The reason why I recommend them is they give you live 24/7 support for free. So that means that you don't need to wait for office hours to contact someone. If you have a question, you can go on their chat and literally get an answer in a matter of minutes. You've got one-click installation of WordPress, which I'll show you at the end of this webinar. And also, they give you a free domain for a year when you sign up with them. So that's kind of my top pick. But again, no matter what you choose, just make sure that they can cover these things. It's going to make your life so much easier, especially if you're just starting out. So you're probably wondering, because I've been talking about WordPress for most of this presentation, why do I talk about WordPress? And it's really important to note that I'm talking about WordPress.org and not .com. With WordPress.org, it means that it is self-hosted. And one of the important elements of that is that you're not relying on another company. So that can be like Wix or Shopify or even Squarespace to host your website. And you're doing it yourself, and that's because it comes down to control. You have control over the administrative, the creative, the technical aspects. Literally everything is in your hand. And one of the things that I say especially for entrepreneurs, even if it's just like a good visualization technique, think about your business in 5 years' time. Like, you have big plans, and I guarantee you your website is not going to be hosted on Wix or Weebly in 5 years. So I always say it's good to start off on the right foot. That way you don't have to worry about transferring anything. You're on the right path, and you can just continue to grow your website and your business. So one of the great things about WordPress as well is that you've got WordPress themes. And the nice thing about themes is that they're kind of like the decorating of your website. And they're easy to create this absolutely gorgeous website, and you don't need to know any code. So this is kind of where the terminology comes in. And I'm going to go through this for you guys really quickly. But for any of you that have actually tried going and looking for themes, you would have come across these two terms. And once you know them, it's going to make your life so much easier. So the first thing is a framework theme. And I want you to think of a framework theme like the framework of your house. And common ones that you've probably heard of include Genesis, there's Thesis, there's Headway, and that's only a couple. And basically what it is that it's a web developer, will take the framework, use it as a base, put a bunch of code on it, and that's how they'll create a theme. So most frameworks are useful if you know code. This is my opinion. I know that there's going to be some people that use Headway, and they're going to be maybe disagreeing because they think it's a drag and drop theme, which it is. But I've worked with Headway personally, and I just think if you don't know code, there's a bit of a learning curve, and you're still limited with what you can do and how great your website can look. Then the next type of theme that you're going to see is a parent theme. And I want you to think of a parent theme. It's basically just the end result of that web developer. They took the framework, they added a bunch of code, which was colors, they changed the layout, they made a bunch of customizations. And basically, they've taken the bare bones of the framework and made this gorgeous parent theme. It looks polished, it looks professional, it just looks like a finished product. And also, if you've already been looking for themes, you would have most likely been looking at parent themes. So any of the websites, even if you've been on like ThemeForest, Creative Market, any of the themes that look like finished products are most likely parent themes. And then there's one last thing I do need to add in, which is a child theme. And you can probably notice a bit of a pattern there. But the reason why I need to bring this one in is so many people seem to get stumped when they come across this, and then they start to panic that they need to use code. So a child theme is what a developer, again, is going to use to customize your parent theme. And without confusing you too much, I want to give you a really weird analogy. I want you to think of sticky tack. So just take a second right now and just look up past your computer screen, and I want you to look at your room. And I want you to imagine that you had this kind of gust of inspiration to decorate your walls. So you have this amazing painting that you want to stick up. If you were to take a hammer and a nail and you put that painting up and you hammered it into the wall, your room would look nice. But if you took that painting down, there's going to be a massive hole in the wall, and essentially the wall underneath the painting is affected. But if you take sticky tack and you stick that painting on the wall, let's say you want to change your walls, you want to paint them, whatever it is that you want to do, when you take the painting off with the sticky tack, nothing underneath it is affected. So that's essentially what a child theme is. It's what a developer is going to use to customize that parent theme without anything being affected. So you can update your theme, and all of those changes they made will stay the same. But take a deep breath, don't worry. You don't need to worry about this because it's for developers. But if you see that the term child theme, you're going to know what it is, and you don't need to panic about it. So the next option, which is the last option for themes, is you've got free and premium. And I personally recommend premium themes because, one, you're going to have so many more customization options, and you don't need to know code either. But you also get access to a customer support team, and you get security updates. So let's say that you find a premium theme and you install it on your site, and all of a sudden you're struggling to know how to change the colors on maybe one of the elements in the sidebar. With a free theme, you might just kind of have to make do with it. But if you have a premium theme that you've purchased, you're going to have access to the developers. You can send them a message and they'll be able to help you through it. And then the next thing is obviously with security updates, it's so important because that means that you're protecting yourself against hackers. Now, the next thing that we're going to move on is plugins and widgets. And Emma, let me know if there's any questions coming in as well, because I know I'm going maybe a little bit fast, but hopefully it's kind of giving you guys a pretty standard overview of it.
Yeah, sure. There's not really questions really coming in. There's one guy that would like for you to look at review his website, which is great. So if anybody would like to ask some questions,
awesome.
please ask them. You might just go over again, if you don't mind, just even for myself, in terms of parent themes and child theme, like when somebody starts off literally just, today, can you just walk us through the first 2-3 steps that you would recommend are the easiest ways of setting or putting together your website?
Definitely. So that's a really good question. So when you are looking for themes, and actually we'll have a link for a resource guide, which is from my free video series, which will have actually links to some of the top theme providers that I recommend. What it is once you've installed your WordPress on your site, which I'm going to show you at the end of this presentation, all that you really need to do to install a theme, you don't need to know any code. It's literally a matter of clicking, uploading the file onto your WordPress, and then activating the theme. And maybe what I'll do is after I install WordPress, maybe I'll give you guys a kind of a quick peek in the back end just to show you how you can actually do that. But again, if you were to get a premium parent theme and you ran into some questions or you weren't sure what to do, you also have their support to be able to guide you through it or if you get stumped. But let's remind me if I don't do it, but when we do the live demo, I'm going to give you guys kind of a quick overview of the back end as well, because I think that will be really helpful.
Great. And just there's one question just coming in there from Dee, and she's just asking that if you've created a site with one theme and you change the theme, do you have to recreate your site?
That's a really good question. 2 answers. First one, I would say, no, you don't. And that's one of the great things about WordPress is when you have a theme, depending on the theme, if you change it, all your content stays the same and it's just a layout that will change. You might need to do a couple of tweaks here and there depending on what they use and how the layout is set up with your theme. But the exception with that are themes that are heavily coded and use shortcodes. To make it an easier example, a lot of you may have heard of the theme Divi. I'm a big fan of it. I love it. And it's a drag and drop theme, meaning that you can build a custom layout or a custom design just by clicking and dragging things into place in the back end. Now, with that though, they've got a different couple of different elements that you can use. Like you can add countdown timers, pricing tables, all these really cool features. But when you switch to a different theme outside of Divi, because Divi uses shortcodes, it's not going to keep all of the those features with it, if that makes sense. So what I would say is, if you're looking for a theme and you're not sure if it's going to be compatible with a new one, before you do any switching around or before that you even purchase the theme, I would actually contact the developers and ask them, if I switch over my theme, is anything going to be affected? The next thing you can also do is look if they use shortcodes. If they do, or your original theme uses shortcodes, chances are it's going to be a bit kind of niggly when you switch it over. Does that answer your question, Dee?
It takes a second for, there's a bit of a time lag, everyone, in case you're wondering. So if anybody asks a question and Jess speaks, it's a time lag before somebody actually comes back. She hasn't come back yet, so I'd say just carry on. So it's just a bit of just the sound, Jess. I think maybe with your microphone there's just a little bit of a kind of hissy sound, or I don't know if you've got a headset.
Let's see.
It just might be a little, yeah. Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. It's just a little.
Let me know if it's.
Yeah, that's.
Is this a little bit better?
Yeah, that's a bit better actually. Yeah. It's just a bit.
Okay, cool. It's probably because I'm too close to the mic.
Okay, right. Yeah. Do you say thank you? And the other, Rachel is asking, do you have to get the premium plan to be able to work with HTML?
The premium plan?
Yes, the premium plan. She's asking, do you have to get the premium plan to be able to work with HTML?
when you say premium plan, do you mean premium theme? So basically, I'll try to clear up just a couple of things just to make sure I understand. So first, when you're saying HTML, with WordPress, you've got your visual tab and a text tab. So let's just imagine that you're writing your content in the visual tab, which looks like the Microsoft, I'll show you guys in the demo, but it looks like the Microsoft Word kind of template. If you were to switch the text tab, you could completely work with HTML. And that doesn't matter if it's with a premium theme. I'm assuming you're talking about themes. If you're working with a premium theme, a free theme, no matter what, you will always be able to use HTML. Another option is if you're using anything in the sidebar, you can use the text widget, which comes with the WordPress install, and you can use as much HTML as you want there as well. Does that is that what you're asking?
Take her a second now to come back.
That's okay.
Okay. Well,
yeah. So the biggest. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, she's saying yes. She's saying yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So the biggest thing is with premium themes, you don't have to use code, but if you know how to use HTML, by all means, you can code away. I love it. It just makes things easier sometimes. So yeah, that's not a problem. So actually, speaking of widgets, we're going to go on to plugins and widgets. And basically, a plugin is just an add-on in WordPress, and it lets you add these different functions to your web page. And you don't need to know code. You can if you want to, but you don't need it. And the best way to explain it is almost like an app on your smartphone. If you add, let's say, an app on your phone for some sort of function, if you delete the app, your phone still works perfectly fine. You just lose that feature. So a widget is really just a plugin, but it's where it's going to appear on your site. So the common areas are going to be like your header, your sidebar, or your footer. It really depends though on your theme and where the developers added widget areas. Okay, so when people get introduced to plugins and widgets, they get super excited because there's thousands of plugins available. Most of them are free, and you have so many different options that you can do to your site. But once they do that, they want to add as many as they can. And what I say with plugins is less is more, because when you have a lot of plugins running in, it can likely slow down your site, but it can also increase your risks for security and for hackers. It's important to note, though, it's not necessarily the more plugins you have, the higher security risk, but it's the more plugins you have, the higher chances that not all of them are coming from a reputable company or a reputable developer, and there could be some security loopholes that aren't maintained. And if for any reason you guys are kind of not nervous, but you're trying to wonder how you can protect your site, one of the best plugins I would recommend is Security. It's a premium plugin. But honestly, it's one of those things where it's worth the investment if you do want to protect your site. But it's important to say that, we've seen it in the news, we've seen it with Sony and all these different big companies. No website can be 100% secure. But I always say it's important to take the steps to minimize your risks, because when you do that, you're just reducing your chances of becoming a target. And most of the time, hackers are going to look for the easy sites to target first. And if you're wondering, the website is security.net. Okay, so I'm going to go now and show you. Let me just...
Can I just ask you a question there on behalf of Rachel, Jess, just while you're doing that? She's just asking, how could you include Google Analytics into your free blog?
Definitely. So you can actually do that with a plugin. One of the best plugins I would recommend is Yoast Analytics, I believe it's called. It's by Yoast Juiced. I'm probably saying it wrong. What I'll do actually is, if you want to leave your website URL, what I can do is I can actually send you the direct link and the name for that plugin. And then what you'll need obviously is a Google or a Gmail account, and then you can connect it that way. You'll just need a special code to add into the plugin in the backend, and then that's how you're going to be able to track your site. Okay, so I'm just going to give you guys a quick demo of how to install WordPress easily and quickly. I'm doing this demo on Bluehost via the cPanel, but just know that most other hosting companies will have a very similar layout, and the process is going to be quite similar. So I'm going to click on cPanel, and let me know if you guys can't see it or if it's a bit small. And feel free to shout out any questions because my internet's probably going to be a bit slow.
That's okay.
So in the second tab, you're going to see this thing called website builders. It might be called something different on your hosting, depending on who you're using. But I'm just going to click on this install WordPress. And it's quite intuitive with everything. Next, we're going to do install. Now, this is really important because not all one-click installs are like this. You really want to make sure that the WordPress that you're installing is the most up-to-date. And you can just see under here, it says version 3.4.3.1. If you have any doubts, you can just Google most up-to-date version of WordPress. And if not, when you install WordPress, just make sure that you update it right away. You'll get a notification though if it is out to date. So I'm just going to click on install. And the next thing that it's going to do, it's going to ask you which domain you want to use. Now, depending on how many domains that you have, you're just going to scroll down and find the right one that you want to install WordPress on. So I'm just going to use this dummy domain here. And then you want to click on check domain. Just have a sip of water while it's doing that. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Somebody was just asking the plugin for the security. It's Security, is that right? Just double checking.
Yes, that's right. Security. And it's security.net is the website because you also have, they've got their website and their dashboard for you to monitor everything as well. Okay, so now this is an extremely important step. And if you take away anything from this webinar, it's going to be this. And I'm such a stickler for this because it's really annoying, but a lot of WordPress installs will use your username, your default username, as either admin or your name or your email account. And this is the most obvious thing that people are going to guess if they want to hack into your site. So don't just click install and go with the default settings. I want you to click on show advanced options. So this site name or title, this is going to be what displays for your site. This is like you can change this easily in the backend, so don't worry about that. Now, admin username. This is obviously not very secure because someone can easily guess this. So what I always say is you want to create an admin username that has a mixture of letters and numbers, but it is in no way anything that could be associated with you or anything that someone could easily Google or look on your social media pages and find. So a trick could be you could use your initials. Obviously mix this up because this will obviously be going live and people will hear this. But you can use your initials. You can do maybe the year and some random letters that mean something to you. It doesn't matter what it is. Just make sure that it's not something that's going to be easily guessed. The next is the admin password. This is a very secure password. Obviously, you can see we've got a mixture of uppercase and lowercase letters, and we've got numbers as well. Then you want to tick to automatically create a new database for this installation, which is this one was already selected. Then you have to click I've read the terms and conditions. You can obviously read them here, and then click install now. So that's literally how easy it is to install WordPress. But just make sure, and even if you do have WordPress already installed, I would highly recommend going into your users and just seeing what your username is and how you can change that. So we're just going to wait for it to install. Hopefully it won't be too long. And actually, you guys can see here, I'll just, while this is loading, underneath it, you're going to see that it has WordPress themes and templates. These are the parent themes that I had talked about. So I'm just going to go hover over it. So you can see this is a premium theme because it's $49. You're paying for it. And just, I can't really move my mouse over it, but you can see that on the right-hand side of that window, the website looks like a finished product. And that is what, when you're looking at parent themes, that's what they're going to look like. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to click on View Credentials. Okay, and then we're going to click on View. Okay, I'm just going to go back actually because this is from a previous installation. It's this one here. Okay, so first thing you can see, it says step 1, access your new WordPress site. So whenever you want to log into your WordPress site, it's going to be, unless you change it obviously, it's going to be your domain.com or whatever the extension is /wp-admin. So I'm just going to open this in a new tab. We've got your username, and what I would recommend is actually copying all of this, because this is going to expire after a certain amount of time, and just pasting it in like a Word document. If you've got something else that's secure. Okay, so now what's actually going to happen, this domain is one that I've transferred over. So I'm just going to show you guys. Just to make it easier, because otherwise you won't be able to see the back end. Okay, so we are currently in the backend of WordPress, and once you log in with your username and your password, this is what you're going to see. This is just a bit of a shortcut just so I could get it to you guys. Okay, so the first thing, I believe we are talking about themes, and I'm just going to show you when you hover over appearance. Appearance is going to be anything that is literally the appearance of your site. This is where you're going to find your widgets, which can be displayed either in your sidebar, your footer, your header, or wherever your theme has it. Menus is your navigation menu, but at the very top here, you can see themes. That's how you're going to add and activate themes. Okay, so we've got a couple of options. The first thing is that you probably would have purchased your theme from a different website, and you're going to want to add it to your WordPress site. And as a rule of thumb, I always recommend deleting any themes that you're not using. So when you install WordPress, you'll probably have a couple of default ones. Just make sure that you get rid of them, because it's a bit of a security loophole and you don't need them. Then we're going to go up where it says themes. I want you to click on add new. Okay, so by default, WordPress has their theme directory, and you can see some of the themes that they offer here. But if you have one from your computer, all it's a matter of doing is clicking on Upload Theme and choosing the file from your computer, and then clicking Install Now. Now, quick tip, and this is a lot of people that are starting out will do this. When you download your theme, it's going to come in a zip folder. Don't open or unzip the folder. It needs to be in a .zip format to be uploaded to your site. But that's literally all that you need to do. And then really quickly, we're just going to go over to plugins. So this is the plugin directory, and this is how you can find all of the plugins. So I'm actually going to do Yoast Analytics for our friend that asked about Google Analytics. Okay, here it is. So we've got it by Team Yoast. It's Google Analytics by Yoast. I've already got it installed. But when you want to install a plugin, all you need to do, I'll just show you up here, is click Install Now. And then you just need to activate the plugin, and there you go, and that's all set. So are there any questions? I know that was kind of a bit of an overview of how to install it, but I'm sure there's some questions out there for you guys that are watching this.
She has Dee has some questions there, and thank you for that, Jessica. That was great. Dee's asking that she just said that she was totally confused for a week when her site was not showing up under the domain. That she says, I had to update the pointing of the website to NDS. Maybe it was different for me as I was using HostGator. Maybe you can comment on this.
Yeah, so I think you mean the DNS settings, which is basically you're pointing to where your website is. So you've got your confused for site under domain. I'm going to guess that, did you purchase your domain from one registrar and then you had your hosting in with another company? With HostGator, obviously, I think is what you're saying. Because what you'll need to do, now it depends, because you're going to need to know the right DNS settings to point your domain to that hosting. But if you contact HostGator, they should be able to tell you exactly what settings that you need. But if you just want to just make sure that I'm commenting on the right thing, but I think you mean your DNS settings.
Okay. Yes, she said yes.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so all you need to do is you're just going to need to point that domain so it knows. Basically, you've got your domain name and it doesn't have a home. It doesn't know where it's hosted. You need to tell basically all the browsers hey, this domain name is hosted with this company, which is HostGator. So contact HostGator. They should be pretty good to be able to tell you what settings that you need to do. And GoDaddy also have customer support as well, which is pretty all right, that you can just tell them, this is basically the DNS settings I need to point the domain to, help me do it. But they'll be good with that.
Okay. Do you want to have a look at some of the websites, Jess, or what would you like to do now? We don't have any other questions as of yet. I just put one in there, bangpromo.ie, and
perfect.
There is a blog then as well. Along came Rachel.wordpress.com.
Okay. So then what I'll do is share my screen. Okay. And just let me know if you can see it. Can you see my screen?
It's all of, the echo effect. You might need to say present to everyone on the top, Jess.
I don't see, if I switch it here, is this at all?
That's perfect, yeah. You just did it there a second ago, yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's start with this. So I'm just going to make it really clear. I'm just going to give you a couple of pointer tips, and kind of the first things that I kind of look at when I'm looking at websites and I'm doing website reviews. And the first thing that I always look for is it clear what the company or the business or the entrepreneur does? Because I say that we live in what I like to call the Google age. So you literally, if you have a question, you can go on Google and 2 seconds later you have your answer. So when I'm looking at a website, I want to go on the website and 2 seconds later, I want to know exactly what it is that they're doing and if they can help me or not. Okay, so my first impression, I'm looking at Bang Promo. You've got you've got a strong logo, which looks great. I like that you've got our site is working, but under construction. So if anything's a bit niggly, people will be able to see and understand what's going on. Okay, so I'm looking here. I can see that you sell merchandise. Hence, I guess, Bang Promo merchandise. So that's good. Good, welcome to Bang Promo. Okay. I'm also going to point out, rather than just having tips of what you can fix, I'm going to tell you what I think is really effective and what you've done is really good, because we might not all be doing this on our own sites. So first thing is you've got your banner, you've got catchy images. I can see that you sell merchandise, which is great. Scrolling down, what I always say is make people's life easy. So give them a couple options of the way that they can work with you. So I see here that you've got 3 things that if I was your target market, I would know exactly that, this is what I'm after. You've got your eco-friendly gifts, special offers, and deal of the week. So that's really, really good. Okay, you've got featured products, brilliant. Free delivery. Okay, the next thing that I would do is I would want to see how I can find a way to work with you. Now you've got your navigation bar here, which is fine. Now a couple of suggestions depending on how much I guess flexibility you have with your website. Another cool option is because it's kind of under the banner, and most of the time we're used to having navigation up at the very top. You have an option sometimes when you're scrolling to have your navigation bar stay sticky once you get to a certain point. So rather than me scrolling down and losing the navigation bar, you could have it stick to the top. Let me know if that doesn't make sense, but you'll just see. So if you scroll down here, what would happen is this would actually stay up at the top as I'm scrolling through the rest of the pages. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on About Us. And I always do this. I think this is probably one of the most common pages that people are going to search for on your website. Okay, so we've got Get to Know Us, Michael and the team. Brilliant, you've got your photos. Okay, so this is my thought, and again, take anything that you want with a pinch of salt, it's just my opinion. I would love to see a bit more of your personality and the people behind the company that you have. There's a really good TED Talk, I can't remember his name, is people don't buy what you're selling, they buy why you sell it, or it's something like that. Basically, you want to show people the why of why you're doing what you're doing. So you've got your team. Say it again, Emma, you probably know it.
Yeah, it's Simon Sinek. I'll just put it in the chat. He's fantastic. Yeah, he's written a book on that as well, on the
Yes,
why.
and can you clarify? I know I got the quote wrong. People don't buy what you're doing, it's the why. Anyways, you know what I mean.
Yes,
I'm saying it.
exactly. Yeah.
So now I'm going to just give you a really, really good example. And I don't know if I'm talking to Michael. I want you to look up wistia.com. This is a really good example of a website that has a team. They're not like it's not one person that's the face of the business, but they've really been able to bring their personality and show you the people and the team behind the company. And I know for a fact that because they've done this, they've been extremely successful, and people are just going to be able to relate to you and your business even more. So even if you're selling merchandise and it seems like a standard thing, there's still a person behind the screen that wants to buy. So, don't be afraid of showing your personality and showing the people behind it. So those are just my thoughts as well. Okay. But overall, is it Michael? It is Michael.
Yes. Yep.
I think you've done here, I'll just go back so it's not doing that. I think you've done a brilliant job, and everyone can see you've got your image banner. It's clear. You've got your logo with, obviously, it's saying what it is that you do. And then on your homepage, you've got the 3 ways that people can purchase your products or kind of sales and promotions that you have. So to be honest, I can see that your site is under construction, but overall, it's a really good, clean site. So good job on that.
Okay. He's saying, to be honest, that's not him or his company in the images.
Okay. Well, but that's good though, because sorry if it's a bit loud. Don't be afraid of, because I think especially when you're not, it's so easy for like female entrepreneurs to be like, okay, it's so easy. I'm gonna get my photo shoot done. I'm the face of my business. I can be super bubbly and show everyone my personality. And I think a lot of the time people get kind of scared. No, I'm not scared. They don't see how important it is to have that, even if you're not just like a solopreneur in the face of your business. So Michael, if that's not you, I would say challenge for you, get your team together if you've got your team or if it's just you. Think of some ways that you can kind of incorporate your personal story. Like, why are you selling merchandise? And it doesn't need to be like a heartfelt story, but how did the idea come about? Your team, are there any kind of cool stories that you could bring into your about page? Some photos, maybe a behind the scenes. People love seeing behind the scenes of your business. So there's just kind of some fun ways, but don't be afraid, especially if you got photos of just like stock images, don't be afraid of being the face of your business and kind of showing your personality on your page. So that's my thought, but I think you've done a brilliant job with what you have. Okay, we've got the YouTube link there as well.
Yeah, that's Simon Sinek. So if anybody wants to go and have a look at that, it's a really, really good one to look at. And he's got a really, really good book as well. Really important lesson actually for all marketing is to understand why you're doing it and to get that across, we'll say, in all of your marketing material and obviously especially in your website. There's just a couple of questions there, Jess. What are your top 5 plugins from Elaine?
My top 5 plugins. Let me see if I can... my top 5 plugins in general?
I think so, yeah. She's just asked it in general.
Okay. Oh, this is hard. Okay, the first one I would say, there's so many. Okay, the first one I would say is it's Advanced TinyMCE. This plugin, there's one specific feature, and it doesn't seem like a very important one, but honestly, it will make your life with WordPress so much easier. Sometimes what happens with a visual editor with WordPress is if you're not using code or HTML to add the content of your site, when you press enter to make a space underneath, like just to bring like to the next paragraph, when you look at it, it looks great. If you save it and then you go to the actual website, you're gonna sometimes see that it gets all mixed together and all the spacing that you did gets lost. When I was first starting out, this drove me insane. And I was actually just helping my friend as well who had this. One plugin, but it's literally all you need to do is tick stop removing like p tags, like an HTML tag, and it'll stop doing that. Maybe I will just, let me see if I can just write the plugin. I don't know if you can see that, and then it's remove p tag option. This is for anyone that has a WordPress site. I would just recommend installing it. Next one is SEO by Yoast. And I think someone had asked about, do you need to have all green for the Yoast or the SEO settings? You don't. It's good, but you want your content, especially now with Google, they always change their algorithms. And I'm not at all an SEO expert, nor do I claim to be. But you want your content to still be natural. You don't want it to be full of all these keywords, so you have a really good SEO rating, but no one actually reads your site, because that's going to affect your rankings as well. So SEO by Yoast, that's another plugin. Same developer, Team Yoast, as the Google Analytics that I showed you. Next plugin is going to be Securi. It's for backing up, or not, well, you can back up your site as well, but for protecting your site. The next one, my favorite, would be either Pop-Up Alley Pro or Magic Action Box. This is for any entrepreneur. You really want to grow your email list, and I'm sure most of you watching this are probably focused on that as well. Magic Action Box or Pop-Up Alley Pro make really nice opt-in forms that you can add on your site. They work with basically all of the major email marketing like service providers like MailChimp, Aweber, and it's just easy plugin, but again, you can grow your email list. Okay, so that's 3. I guess 4 would be Google or Yoast Analytics. And then 5. I think if I was a beginner, a DIY, like just starting off my journey with DIY websites, it would be the Image Widget plugin. And this is basically, you can add, with WordPress, if you want to add any images to your sidebar, you need to know HTML to be able to add it in. But you can get this plugin called Image Widgets, or it's Image to Widget or something like that. If you search it, you'll be able to find it. And it basically just allows you to upload images directly in the widget area without needing to know any code. So that would probably be my top pick. I mean, there's so many. It really depends on kind of what your goals are and what you're after and what your experience is. But those would be probably my top ones. Hopefully that helps a bit.
Yes, that's great. Thank you so much, Jessica. That's fantastic. Somebody else is asking as well, what are the must-have pages for your website?
Say it again. What
are the must-have pages for a website? You know, what do you feel, you know, I presume there's referring to your homepage, your About Us page. So what do you feel are the top pages that you absolutely must have for your website?
I'm going to take this from, I'm just going to assume, obviously everyone here will be some form of an entrepreneur. Okay, so the first one is your homepage, but really important, and I have this thing called a homepage formula. It's not really a formula, it's just kind of things to include on your homepage. Don't think of your homepage as another page, because a lot of the time what we tend to do is we want to impress. Like, I'm really bad with analogies, but one of the ones that I think of is if I was selling my house and I wanted to impress you, and so I put literally my flower pots, all of my furniture and everything on my front lawn, chances are you're not going to want to come inside and see what else is in my house. So when I say your homepage is an important page, what it is it's giving people a taster of what it is that you offer. You're telling them what you do, and just keep it really short and clear. So for Michael's example, he had his image banner. Underneath it, he had the 3 ways that people could either buy his products or they could see the promotions. So keep it simple, but that's obviously an important one. Your About page, making sure that you're bringing your personality into it. Don't just have using we all the time and, you know, not showing who's behind the business. Work with me is extremely important. The way that people can obviously work with you. I think a blog, any form of blog, whether it's video blog, content, newsletter, anything that you're giving content regularly is really important. And then obviously your contact. But those, I know those are pretty standard pages, but I think what I would say is it's not necessarily what pages you have, but it's what you do with them. Because there can be 2 different types of people with the exact same pages, but one has a much more successful website because of how they've displayed it, what they've included, and how intentional they've been with everything. So I would just say, no matter what page you're creating, just think about what is the end goal. What do you want your web visitors to do or feel, or what action do you want them to take after they come to that page, and then work your page around that, rather than I have 50 different products and I have them, I work with each so people can buy them. Just take a step back and think about what's the most important one that people would need, or how can I help them the most? So hopefully that helps a bit.
Okay, I've just included your PDF that you have, Jess. So if anybody wants to download that, Jess has a very good resource there from her website. So I've just shared the link if anybody wants to have a look at it.
Perfect.
Just a couple of people there are looking if we can look at their website as well. Just Kieran as well, just, you know, he just wants, I think as well, if we, you know, in terms of presentation, if we can go through some of the presentation, just Kieran, just so you know, just the last couple of times we've been doing a webinar, it was just people found it better if we actually went into their Twitter profile, went into their website and actually gave kind of like a masterclass more so than a webinar where we're actually advising. So I can understand what you're saying. Some people prefer a webinar or a presentation style. So perhaps, you know, Jess, you could maybe just refer back to your presentation, maybe there a little bit, or just some of the topics there, maybe go over the top, you know, the top tips that people need to know when they're going to design their website or their blog.
Definitely. Okay. Let me just think about the best way I can do this, because I think the first thing, the most important thing is when you're designing your website, like I said, you want to be really intentional with what you're doing. And I would actually say that goes back to your homepage formula. So let me just, I'm going to show you guys my homepage formula, and I'm going to take you through it just so you can see. And maybe what we could do is I'll go through it briefly, and then I'll go to one of the examples, and maybe we can see how we can kind of apply those to their website. Is that kind of what you mean, Emma? Or do you mean more of going through?
Yeah, I think so. If you have something there you can go through. Some people prefer if you go through a presentation style and they can see it and take notes. So if you don't mind just doing that, Jess, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
No, that's perfect. I'm going to show you now. Okay. Now, also for anyone that downloaded the free cheat sheet, you will see it says something about like video 3. Video 3, I actually have a video of this homepage formula as well. But I'm going to show you guys the, just see, can you guys see that?
I can see that. I presume everybody else can.
Can everyone see that okay? Just make it bigger just so you can see it. Just let me know.
Yeah, I'd say just work away, I'd say, because there's that time lag just with people actually answering. So we just go ahead.
Okay. So I'm just going to go over this. Yeah, no worries. This is just my I call this a homepage formula, but it's really just a couple of key elements that I developed after I was working with a bunch of client sites, and I noticed there's kind of this pattern of things that were missing or things that were over included on their pages. But keep in mind that this can also help with any of your pages. You might just need to tweak some of the things. So the first part is your homepage clarity. And I said this a bit before about the Google age, but I just think that we're so used to receiving information quickly. And basically for your website, you want people to know what you do quickly rather than making them have to search around your website for better understanding. So I want you to ask yourself this: if you do have your website, is it clear what I do? And is it clear what I want new visitors to do? And also, if anyone had a chance to, or after this presentation, to download that resource guide, there's a resource that I mentioned at the very end called Peak. It's called Peak User Testing. And this is actually a tool that you can get basically strangers to go through your website, and they're going to record their opinion and their kind of review of your site and just kind of their first impression of it. So that's a really good tool as well if you kind of want to know if your site is easy to navigate and if it's clear what it is that you do. So as an example, I want you to imagine that you're like this health coach. Having this gorgeous photo, even if it's a professional photo of you on your homepage, even if you're holding this green juice and a bunch of veggies, it just isn't enough to give your new web visitors clarity on what you do. So you can do this, and my favorite way of doing this is by including a short message on that image banner of what you do. So this is just a kind of a quick snapshot of my own website. You can see me, I'm standing there with a laptop, and I think that seems pretty obvious. But next to it, I've got the words "Websites Made Easy." So it's short, it's not a long paragraph, but it just shows that if you're on this page, I help you with websites, I make them easy. And if you were a new web visitor, you would know that you're in the right place. Basically, to keep it short, if you have a clear message, your web visitor is going to be happy. They don't need to guess around what you're doing. And they know that if obviously you're the person that can help them, they're going to be interested and they're going to keep scrolling through your page. So the next thing is credibility. And this is something that seems to be overlooked a lot. I've worked with clients that have been featured in TV, popular websites, conferences, TED Talks, and they forget to add this on their homepage. This is so important. I can't stress this enough. When you're on your homepage, it's the first impression for any new web visitor. And you don't want to assume that they're just going to go through your website, read all of the paragraphs of copy that you have to understand everywhere that you've been featured and your experience and what you do. So the best way to do this is to add logos to your site. And they don't need to be massive companies or massive websites that you've been featured in. As long as they're relevant and your target market is going to know what it is that you're doing or those places, it's going to be a really good way to create a strong first impression. So one of my favorite websites to show you this example is from Denise Duffield-Thomas from luckybee.com. And you can see that she's got basically her image there, nice quality photo. She's got the text here that says, want to be rich and lucky. So if you came to the site, you would know that she obviously helps with this. And if you're interested, you'd be, wanting to scroll down. But right underneath her image, you can see she's got these logos of places that she's been featured. So she doesn't say like this long paragraph. It's just, just a snapshot of the places that she's been featured. But if you see that, you're going to know that, okay, this girl knows what she's talking about. You're probably going to be more interested to see what else she does. For the gentleman on this, we've got Lewis Howes. And again, he's got the logos there, really clear to see, but his credibility is instantly boosted in your mind. So the next tip, and there's only 4, is less is more. So you want to have your web visitors' attention and you want them to know that you can help them. But I want you to ask yourself, is your homepage crowded with content and images and basically 101 different things? And so this really goes back to my analogy of either house party, if you're selling your house. When you invite people in, if you have everything on your homepage of all the different ways that you can help them, you're just going to make people feel overwhelmed and they're probably just not going to want to stay. And that's the last thing that you want when people come to your site. So I briefly said this when we were going over Michael's website, but you just want to focus on the key elements of what you know that they want to see. Either that's different services that you have or your products, even like a free ebook if you have an offering. Make sure that that is the key focus of your site and you're not crowding it with all these different things. And another thing is that people sometimes can feel a bit scared, especially female entrepreneurs, to show how people can work with them on their homepage because they don't want to seem pushy or salesy, and I totally get that. But what I say is if they scroll down to this point on your page, these people that are on your website are clearly interested. Make their life easy for them. So if it's just 1 or 2 ways that they can connect with you, just have it on your homepage to make it simple for them. And the last part of this is your testimonials. A lot of people think about having their testimonials on a separate page, like a praise page or a client love page. And that's fine, it's great. But a lot of people overlook how powerful it can be on your homepage. So it's the exact same principle of having the logos of where you've been featured. It's just a way to boost your credibility and to create a strong first impression. So just to quickly recap, the first one is you have a high quality professional photo with a clear message of what you do. Next, if you've been featured anywhere that is relevant to the people that you're targeting, have the logos displayed there. Third, offer your clear ways that people can work with you, or an opt-in or an offering, or even if you have like clarity sessions. And then last but not least, have testimonials. And basically what it is that if someone scrolled down to that point in the page, you've basically answered all of their questions. They're going to see you've been able to help other people like that. And it just makes a really good, strong first impression. So with that, let me know if you have any questions. Let's see, do we have any live websites that we can kind of use the basis of that?
There's a lady that looked for it earlier. It's a blog, actually. It's alongcamerachel.wordpress.com.
Okay, let's see. alongcamerachel.wordpress.com.
We're running out of time a little bit, so we can't do everybody's, unfortunately.
Okay, so we'll do a quick one. Okay, so this is a really good example. So thank you, Rachel, for volunteering your website. Okay, so we're going to go back. So this is your homepage. So you've got your contact me page here. You've got some of your blog articles here. Brilliant. Okay. And I can see that you've got your other page, the navigation bar at the top, which is great. So the first thing that I would say is I would love to see some form of an image or an eye-catching photo of you, or maybe something around beauty or fashion up at the top, and even including this everything beauty and fashion related. And it might depend on the theme that you're using. But again, this goes back to our first tip. It's going to draw people's attention in. It's going to be engaging. And it's just going to make it super clear for new people visiting your site what it is that you help them with. Okay, so next we've got is your contact me. I would almost say you've got, okay, so you got recent, oh, I see, so you've made this contact me as a blog post. What would actually be kind of neat is if you were to have this in your sidebar and the focus of this area here being on your blog posts. Because rather than, I think, because you're not selling any products or you're not offering any services directly, your kind of work with me section, or the focus that you want to make your website about or your homepage about, is your blog. So I would almost say have your newest blog articles at the very top, and then in the sidebar, in this kind of widget area, have your kind of social media feed, have the email or the way people can contact you, have that on the side here above the page folds. Now, I guess because you're a blog, you probably wouldn't have any testimonials. But even if you were to have, if people commented on your blog post saying things like, oh, this is amazing, this really helped me, that's actually something you could think about of including on this as well. But again, it might need to be put in the sidebar just because of the layout of the page. But overall, Rachel, I would say it looks like you've got really good blogs. I wouldn't be afraid of adding more images. So you've got a nice kind of plain gray background. If you were to add a couple of high quality images, whether that's featured images at the very top of your blog post, having some sort of an image banner, even some images in your sidebar directing people to different pages on your site, I think that's going to make it even more engaging, and it's just going to make people stay on your site even longer. So that's what I would say, but I think you've done a great job you're starting your blog here, you're doing your posts, and I think that's awesome.
Great, that's fantastic. Thank you, Jess. We're actually just going just after 10 o'clock, so we're just top of the hour. So I'm just wondering, is there any kind of final questions or anything you'd like to add, Jess, that you feel is important that you haven't covered already? And if anybody would like to just ask some last questions, please, because Jess is giving an hour of her time and it's 10 o'clock at night, so for us all. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. And just if you have any other topics you'd like to cover or anything you feel you haven't covered already, that would be absolutely fantastic.
I think the biggest thing I would say, and it's probably disappointing if people are wondering like some really good like tech tip, I would just say just start, especially if you're wanting to DIY your website. One of my favorite quotes is, "You don't have to be great to get started, but you do have to get started to be great." I think a lot of us just kind of hold ourselves back, especially any kind of tech things. If you're watching this right now and you're wanting to start your website and you're like, "Oh, I'm not a tech person, I don't know how to do this," just dive in. Trust me, I know what it's like. I said I taught myself WordPress, even with like a tech background, it was really confusing, but it is so much easier than you think it is once you get going. Don't be afraid if you're in Facebook groups to post questions. If any of you guys are in the same Facebook groups as me, you can tag me in questions all the time. Happy to help. But just do it. Just dive in, whether you've seen how to set up your hosting and your domain, and just dive in, because it's always going to improve. Second thing best advice ever is, if you're not embarrassed by your website when you started too late. So just kind of go for it, and your website's always going to be changing.
Yeah, it's very true, actually, because I started off with a completely different business name. I called my business Integral Marketing. I've done a complete new rebrand. And actually, I don't know if you've come across peakusertesting.com. Have you, Jess?
Yeah.
I put it in the chat. It's a free resource, guys. So log into peakusertesting.com, and basically they come and it's an American site, and they get somebody to look at your site and they comment, and they record them commenting on it. And I had total website shame with my one. I mean, they were like, I think she does marketing, and I was like, oh my gosh. So, but it's really good because, yeah, it's good exercise because it actually shows you're so used to looking at it, you assume everybody knows, how they navigate it. So how somebody navigates the website is really important as well. Like you say, do they go to the home page? Do they go to the About You page? Do they go to a product page? What are they going to? What are the first impressions? So somebody through peakusertesting.com actually speaks their way through it. So it's a really, really good way of getting somebody to actually assess your website and just to see from their perspective, and it's completely objective because of course you don't know them, so it's not your friends saying, oh wow, it's fantastic and it's awful, or on the other side where yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we've all done it. So don't be afraid, as Jess says, to start, be it a blog or to ask for opinions, genuine opinions. So that's fantastic. And have you had, I've also put some tips in there there's a free PDF from Jess. I'll put it because there will be a replay going out, just so you guys know. And it'll take now about 12 hours because I'll have to edit the video. I always edit out the start because it's only everybody kind of coming on board and it's kind of all fiddly and everything. So I'll edit that out. It does take a little bit of a while, so bear with me. So it'll probably be lunchtime tomorrow before I can send it out. You'll all get it. And equally, you'll get the link to her website. Jessica has 3 free videos at the moment where she's teaching people about DIY video. You'll get the replay so you can stop it and start it as you wish. And there's a PDF file there from Jess as well. So she's really shared a lot of her resources. But I'd also like to highlight as well that she's also starting a DIY course for people that aren't sure how to do websites. And that's starting when, Jess? Or
it's open. It's closing in 3 days now. So
okay, 3 days. Okay, so she's kind of mid-launch. You can see that Jess is a fantastic lady, and if anybody isn't sure and feels like they need the extra help, I've shared in the chat there as well the direct link into that particular video series. It's an online training course. Like I've worked with Jess in a couple of different things over the last couple of months, and she really, really is fantastic. So I could highly recommend that. So if anybody would like to go and have a look, the links are shared here in the chat. Equally, I'll share them tomorrow in the email for the replay. Please have a look, and you can see there's lots and lots of free advice as well. But if anybody feels like they need extra help, I could highly recommend Jess as well. So have a look there. We have a lot of people just thanking you as well. Jess, we've Rachel. Wow, thank you so much. Kieran, thanks a million. Also, Dee, amazing webinar. Thank you both. Margot.
Thank you.
Did one always install updates when they're available? She's just asking.
Really quickly, really good question. We don't want to miss that. Yes. Always back up your site before you do any major WordPress updates. But anytime there's an update, definitely make sure that you do update it, because that's for any security loopholes or anything important. Yeah, definitely update it.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Lots of thank yous from Stephanie, from Emma as well, our other web designer. Thank you, Emma. Thank you all for staying on, because we know it's an hour long, so it is long. But I said you will get the replay. If you have any questions, do come back to us and we'll do our best to answer them via email or in some regard. So, I'd also like to thank Jess as well. Thank you so much for coming on this interview, which really isn't an interview. It's a presentation whereby you're helping us, including me, I can tell you, in relation to website. I understand, we'll say, the marketing side of it in terms of why people buy, but I don't understand, we'll say, how to put it together. So that's really where your help is really, really needed. Margot saying thank you so much, and Michael and everybody saying thank you, and it was a great webinar. So just sincerely from me, thank you for coming on so late, 9 p.m. at night in the UK. Really, really appreciate you doing that. So thank you. And okay, I think that's everything. So they've all asked their questions. And again, thank you to Jess. Thank you to everyone for joining us. As I said, you will get the replay. So thanks so much. And we will see. Actually, just to remind you, next week I'm doing another webinar, and I'm inviting another guest, and we're doing retargeting. So retargeting, if anybody has done Facebook ads or Google ads, is fantastic. It's a way of where people come to your website and they go away for whatever reason. Now, this is the simplified explanation. They go away for whatever reason. So retargeting allows you to target these people that have come to your website and have gone away, but are obviously interested in some regard. So that's the simplified version. And I have a lovely lady from the UK again next week, Christina Jones, who is really fantastic at this. So if you want to join us, I'm going to send that link as well. And if that's something that interests you, it really is a fantastic area, and particularly for selling product or, you know, even service as well. You know, it really is a fantastic subject to look into, just so you guys know. So, and again, you know, I've learned a phenomenal amount this evening, so thank you so much, Jess. So I think we'll log out, and Rachel says that sounds interesting. Yes, it is. And also, sorry, next week as well, I will be running a 5-day ideal customer. It's a free ideal customer challenge. So I'm kind of launching a course in the next couple of weeks all about your ideal customer. So basically figuring out your customers and what makes them buy and what drives them to buy. It's an area I'm hugely interested in and have been for years. So that will be coming down the line. You'll get an email about that. So sorry about all the extra information at the end, guys. But okay, Kieran is saying certainly interested in retargeting. I have to say, out of everything, your website is so important. And just to remind people, you know, that, you know, when I meet people, you know, I'm obviously advising them on marketing as a whole, but, you know, it is your shop window. And, you know, it's like having a house in a field with no road to it. So if you don't have it designed properly, like Jess is saying, you know, if it doesn't look nice, people just won't want to come in. It's not inviting. So it's really important that you guys, you know, listen to her tips, but in general, that you're looking at the ideas around that it is your shop window, and it's so important to get it right with the About Me page, the testimonials, that people can easily see and navigate it. So do go to peakusertesting.com. It really is interesting. Sometimes it highlights issues, or equally it can show you where you're doing things right as well. So again, thank you to Jess. Everyone else is saying thank you to you. So we'll log off and have a great evening. Have a great cup of tea or a glass of wine or whatever it is. And thank you all so much. Okay, bye for now. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.